Good evening, everybody. Right, this evening isn't going fantastically well. I started a live stream a little bit ago, but it turns out the Elgato software had died on my computer again and the mic had stopped working. So we've got to restart everything. So, right. So, yes, if you're looking for streaming microphones, do not buy any Elgato product ever. That's my tip of the day. Right, I had progressed somewhat in the stream with some explanations of things, and I wasn't getting anywhere fast. So what I'm going to quickly do is just delete a bunch of things that I did. Right, and we'll try and start this again. So what I'm trying to do, I'll quickly try and recap what I'm trying to do while I delete the stuff that I just added, and then we'll have a go at fixing the situation again. What we're trying to do is add a checkbox on the Home tab and make that tie into the config system. So in the config system there's a Boolean flag which says show the Home tab on startup, and I'll display all this kind of stuff in a minute. And we're trying to make that just basically tie into everything. Yeah, okay. So let me switch over to the IDE now. Here we go. Let me just compile this, deal with a couple of error messages, and yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bear with me just a moment. I was prepared earlier for this, but you know, stuff happens, and you got to roll with it, right? So yeah, we don't have this. We don't have this. This is where we were sort of going with it. We don't have any of this. Right. We don't have this. We don't have this. We don't need that. There we go. Okay, so things should compile. Right, let me show you the GUI as it is. Okay, so we've got a GUI, and in the config, let me show you the config. Close other tabs, right? In the config file, there's this flag here. Show home on startup, false. True, for instance. And we rerun it again, and we'll get a home tab that appears on startup, right? Home, it says here. And we've got this button here which says show on startup, and we want that to do two things. One, show the state of the current value in the config, which it clearly doesn't, because here it says true and here it's not ticked. And when you change this, update the value in the config, or at least have it so that when the application saves, the config is updated correctly. I mean, maybe there's a two-step process or something like that. Who knows? But I was completely and utterly failing to make that work. Let me show you why. So we've got our main and we've got our home mod, right? And we've got this dynamic bool, which is pass, which shows the content of some boolean, right? This is called by the makeContent method on tabKind. tabKind is a trait. Sorry, tab is a trait, and we're implementing it for tabKind. tabKind is an enum. We can have two types of tab: home tab or document tabs. At some point, we're going to have, you know, document kind in here, but we're not ready for that yet. But somehow we need to get access to the config and then get access to the property in the config and then use that value here. But what it looks like is that we cannot do that. So the problem is we haven't got access. We haven't got anything that we can ask to get a config from. Other GUI frameworks solve this problem like this. They have, say, a scope that is passed in for which you can ask for a thing which contains the type that you're interested in, right? And this is how we did it in MakerPad. And when you're in the process of creating your widgets or handling actions or whatever like this, you can access this context or scope or whatever it is, right? Another GUI framework that we've also used, Floem, has a method called provide context. And you give it an arc or some other kind of type. And then later on in your app, you can, well, I didn't do it for this. I didn't do it for the tick box in this one, so we can't see it there. But you can basically get the context. Is it get context or use context? I think it was use context. Yeah, and they do this kind of thing, right? So when you're creating your app, you can go use context and then you'll get your app state thing, right? The Floem one is a little bit weird because if you call provide context and you give it something, that means that there is a context instance for that type of thing that you gave it. So when you call get context, right, if you define the type that you want, or you use the turbofish and specify the type here, then it knows which use context method to use to get your context back again. And that's how they work, basically. So there can only be one of any particular kind of type. So you can't store two bools, for instance, because it doesn't know which bool you're referring to. There's no way to specify that. So you'd have to create a wrapper type for your bool so that that type has then got its own context, right? I don't really want to create my own context. In the previous stream, I started creating a context using a slot map and tried to make it use the type any, which is allows you to basically upcast and downcast instances of things. But that didn't work. Various issues, send and sync, and the callback in our code basically just prevented it from compiling no matter what I did. So perhaps we follow the approach that we were just looking at here, the Floem one. So if we look at get context here, maybe we can get some ideas from this. Provide context, and it goes run text contexts, insert, yeah, boxed in any, and this is the kind of thing that I was trying to do, but it didn't work for me. How do they store? How do they store? What is this context thing? I'm kind of curious now. A hash map of a type ID in a box. Boxed in any. All right, let's just borrow this example and see where it goes. Right. Let's use that for inspiration because it looks like Cushy doesn't have a concept of a context for user-defined types, which is basically what you need. Let's get rid of this one. That's not the right one. Switch back to the right one. So we need to go get context. Right, that's what we need to do. And then I can access the property from the config. Great. But we don't have this method. Let me delete this. Go to main mod context. Should we call it app context? Yeah. So instead of going... The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to see what other problems we're going to run into. I know I need a context for a few things. At least I think I need a context for this, because I don't see any other way around it other than parameter passing and... No. No. We're not doing it. Where did I do it? Home, main... Here, sorry, this one. Get context. So we need this. Let's undo that. Hold on. Let's just add an import for this. Right, there we go. So we've got to make this work somehow. We've got to get a context. It's clearly going to need a type. And it's going to have to return an optional one of these types if it exists. That's the method signature that we need. Yay. That's one half of it. The other half of it is going to be in the main app. Config is an arc, so we can go app context, provide context, apps date.config.clone perhaps. Right, and this is the other half of it. But no. T. And we need to save instance in the config and then get that same instance back if it exists in the config at a later date. That's what we need to do. So yeah. So probably I don't know, we're going to need some static thing which we can put things in and get things out of. And that static thing needs to be able to probably be locked and all this kind of malarkey. And what happens if two people try and access this thing at the same time? And oh god, it's going to be a nightmare. I can see it coming. So a runtime is a thread local static. And it's got a ref cell to a bunch of these things. Thread local. Yeah. This is already going to fail. This is already going to fail. Like, this approach is already doomed. Doomed. Why is it doomed? I'll show you why it's doomed. It's doomed because of this callback thing that we needed to do. Am I looking at the right thing? No, I'm looking at the wrong. Too many projects. It's doomed because of the tab bar implementation. It's doomed because of this. because this for each thing needs things to be send and static. And if you put things in a thread local, it's probably not going to be send, right? So we're kind of doomed. We can't create our callback for the tab bar to activate the tab because of this. And why do we care about that? We care about that because the callback is going to need to call make content, and well, maybe it doesn't. Hold on. Make content. Yeah, I was passing it through before. Now I'm not. But if it's created on a different thread, it's probably going to be doomed. So if you do thread local, every thread that then tries to access it gets a different static gets a different static version, right? You know, it gets a different instance somewhere else in memory. And then probably what will happen is that the callback runs on a different thread that's not the main thread, and therefore when we try and make the tab content, because the context was provided on one thread and the callback is running on another thread, probably, who knows, like what thread is going to be executing this closure. It might not be the same thread, and if it's not the same thread, then it won't get the same thread local, and it won't get the same context, then it'll die in a big fat heap. Do we bother trying to even implement this? Do we do better things with my life? Such as not use Cushy yet. After evaluating Rust GUI frameworks for 5 weeks, I'm inclined to say yes to that question. Let's not use Cushy. Okay. Next GUI framework. Other thoughts and observations. Blocked by lack of context system. Yeah. Okay, let's fill in some other thoughts and observations while we're at it. Widget look like game/web widgets, not desktop widgets. That's a big no for me. What other thoughts do we have? Okay, let's see. Let's put that here as well. Blocked by lack of context scope system. That's a shame. Oh well. So, no internationalization support. Yeah, I didn't like that. We noted that. Maybe in the future, not now. Overall feeling after trying to write a test case. Seems more oriented towards games, not desktop apps. Now I'm saying that because the author is writing games, and I watched a couple of the devlog things, and he was creating a login system for a multiplayer lobby, which, you know, it's the game use case. Fine, so you need a UI for it. So I don't think this is wrong in particular. Missing common GUI elements, e.g. drop down. We've got this tabs with dynamic content. No tab bar implementation. This is a big red flag for me. That one. Drop down. Yeah, this one is. That's a big red flag. Internationalization was another red flag for me. I didn't find any SVG support, which is another red flag for me. There were actually tests. Let's fill this in. There were actually tests. So occurrences of test, 31. 31. But some are actually for the GUI, which was good. Unlike the other frameworks. Coverage, well, it's going to be very bad because there's only 31 tests. I've not run the coverage report. I'm not going to. But if there's only 31 tests, and there are, you know, many hundreds of lines of code, you can be pretty damn sure that the coverage isn't going to be good. In my prior experience. This is 6 now because I contributed to something. There's no visual editor, keyboard navigation, keyboard control. I didn't get into as far as looking at keyboard control. Yes, there were dynamic views, containers, and stacks. Event system, don't know too much about it. We didn't get that far, unfortunately, because we got blocked by other things. System menus was a no. I think context menus was a no. It sort of had some context ones, but they weren't native looking ones. This is more for like a game UI again, right? So games don't need system context menus, which is, you know, further concrete. Yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? Making my thoughts more concrete, basically. Yes, something like that. Let's just run this menu thing so we can answer that question. While we're running, let's look at the other things. Yeah, it sort of had lists, tables, but no. Yeah, tree views, no. Splitters, no. Architecture overview. There was a bit. Little in the API docs for widget. So we've got this. This is a menu. So you can get a context menu, but it's not really a system one. Let me there's some rendering issues with it, right? What I want is a system menu, or one at least that behaves in a reasonable way. You know, here I'm right clicking at the bottom and the context menu is displayed in the window. System context menus, you know, just here's the one from the chat, right? Oh, you can't see it there. Let me bring it across a bit. If I right click here, the system menu appears above the UI, right? It doesn't necessarily need to fit into the window. I mean, that's from OBS, so that's not even a system menu because they're normally grey on Windows. I'm trying to work out whether there is one in Firefox. Yeah, this is more like a system menu. Native ones, rather. Native context. So, no, didn't have that. I'm trying not to be too negative. But the experience of all the other GUI frameworks has unfortunately tainted me. And now I'm just filled with negativity about the situation that we're faced with. Which is unfortunate. Yeah, let's go back to the list. Oh yeah, there are no real world examples. No real world examples. No examples that deal with yeah, I was going to say application state, but there is actually one example. It's that tic-tac-toe one, but unfortunately it's not real worldy enough. But we can say that there's no documentation regarding how you're supposed to deal with application state. Certainly I don't want to be using Cushy types in my config struct, which is going to be serialized by Serde, for instance. So you need to have some implementation that says, you know, given this struct, which is serialized by Serde or comes from a third-party system or whatever, how do I get things from it in my application when I need to? So for instance, I'll just show you the config struct again, right? The config struct, what am I talking about here? My config struct is this, right? What I don't want to do and should not have to do is use any form of like things like dynamic in here. No. Right, imagine this struct definition comes from another crate. You can't do it anyway, even if you wanted to. You just have to use what is given to you and then fit that into your reactive system somehow. So yeah. So there's like no document. If any of these statements here are wrong, please add comments on the spreadsheet. Let me, or in the chat, or on YouTube comments or whatever, and we can update things and provide corrections as required. What am I trying to do? This one. That's what I was doing. Copy link. Paste this in the chat. Here we go. No documentation. Come on. Come on. Regarding application state. Yeah. This is a red flag to me. I mean, oh, picked the wrong red again. This is a red flag to me, and at some point you get so many red flags, you just go, no, it's not for me. At least not yet. Unfinished. Style. Styling system. I found styling anything to be painful. Yeah, we can go helpful developer, responsive to feedback. That was positive. Hector joined the stream the other day. Provided some pull requests and some comments and so on. But he's probably busy with other stuff. Yeah, the styling. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've covered everything there. So this gets a red flag because of the lack of the context system, which basically blocked me from continuing with this exercise. Right, we didn't even get to the point where we're trying to create documents and check to see whether the state is maintained on the tabs or anything like that. I'm just literally trying to get the value from a config reflected on a checkbox. That's all I'm trying to do, but ultimately failing. Wait, I'm running the wrong one. Let's just. Oh dear. Why is it? It's panicking now. Oh, we've not implemented that. Yeah. Let me just comment these out. And let's make it return none. I don't want to implement it myself. No. Where's my code that was building this? This is going to fail if I do that, so I'm just going to comment this out and go and comment this out. Fix me, need a context system, e.g. and whatever. And I'll commit this code so that people can fiddle about with it. So how about we... Yeah. 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 Let's just run this. So all I'm trying to do is have this Boolean reflected here. That's it. It's not complicated requirement. It really isn't. But we failed. Let's do a commit. Yeah, let's do a commit. Let's clean up some import statements. So that if we do pick up on this at some other point in the future, which I'm not ruling out at this point with this. Yeah, we know we don't care about that. That's exactly the point. Yeah, perfect. Okay, Fail no context system to get items from config. That's going to be the commit, and we're going to push that up. Thus, the code for this is going to be in this repo. I'll pop a link to the code in there, pop a link to the path of the actual code that we were trying to deal with. Examples, tab document UI. This was the example. That's in the chat description. So, yeah. Bye. Goodbye, Cushy. Just holding my head in my hands, just in sheer fear of what I'm going to find next when I look through this list. People have said, try Iced. Let's have a quick look at Iced on stream now to remind myself of why I'm not picking it. Other than in addition to the fact that the Vizier guys, rightly so, say that the way they do internationalization is weird and a bit batshit. Iced. Create repo docs. Let me just pull these out. Oh, I wish it didn't do that. Because you try and drag it and drop it and it... Okay, okay, here we go. Alright, so, Iced. I think we looked at the widgets. Where were the widgets? I think I ran some of the examples. Let me run the example again. Yeah, I do remember this. Okay, let's ditch the Cushy window because that's not happening. Examples. Yeah. Where was the widgets? Was there a little gallery of the widgets? Trying to remember if there was or not. It's been a while since I looked at this. I'm looking for like drop down. I'm not seeing it. Select. I'm not seeing it. Is there on the website a screenshot of each of the different widgets? It'd be nice if there was, wouldn't it? Roadmap, check out the, yeah, let's have a quick look at the roadmap as well over there. I don't remember why. There was something that made me just go no. I think it might have been the focus of what it was for. that made me go no. I thought I had it on my list. Iced. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Simple toy desktop apps was I think my red flag. I'm not sure that's changed in the last 5 weeks since I looked at it. Yeah, I'm just looking for non-trivial examples. I just want to see what all the widgets looked like again as well. I mean, it does indeed have some kind of drop-down box. I don't know what it's called though. I don't know, maybe we have to give this iced a go after all. Because I looked at the other ones which looked more suitable first. Let's have a quick look at the iced repo. I vaguely remember looking at this. Context menus and system menus, but that's not the end of the world. Text selection. Why is text selection on a roadmap? You can create a solar system. Sure, but where's the GUI elements? Why? What's this got to do with... Seems a bit strange to have a solar system example with no GUI elements. At least not that I could find in the 10 seconds that I gave it. Trying to find the widgets though. Let's run this one. No, not that one. This one. There's an event system that you can use. I mean, maybe it's got some useful stuff. Some markdown support, multi-window. No keyboard support. I mean, see, I can't focus this. I mean, there was keyboard support inside this. But there's no keyboard support on that. Yeah, there was a few red flags that made me not want to look at it, but you know, after having a look at all the other ones and finding all their red flags, I don't know, maybe we could have a look at it. I'm still not sold on it though. I might have to come back to it. I might investigate it a little bit off stream rather than in this stream. What else could we look at? I mean, this one with the 540 dependencies and the Freya one with its similar 470 plus dependencies were because they were using like web rendery stuff, and it's just like the MakerPad UI devs know that compile time is important, and it is, and it's also important to have well-tested crates and dependencies all with the same licenses and all this kind of stuff. And for a GUI, 540 dependencies. 540. I mean, the 270 plus of like Vizier and Cushy and Floem is bad enough, but not double. No. Iced dependencies. I've got the numbers the wrong way around. Oh, there was a. Look, let's look at it. Where is it? Is it Tor? It's this. This is it. I think I ran this. Yeah, I remember this now. See, 265 dependencies it's trying to build. Is that fewer dependencies than when I last tried it? Yeah, I think I looked at this and no keyboard input. You know, there was some stuff in here that wasn't totally hideous. Yeah, there was some stuff in there that wasn't totally bad. Let's look at an internationalization again to just remind ourselves of that. How do we think there's an example? I can't find it. These files normally have sort of suffixes like this, but searching for EN isn't particularly helpful. I need to search for like whole word on directories only or something. It's not really easy to search for. Did we find, what did I put? Did I check that? I'm not sure I actually checked that when I was looking originally. So I didn't have localization, internationalization support either, which is another big red flag. You know, I looked at Cushy and that didn't either. I'm not looking at iced. I'm not looking at it. Not yet. Not yet. Let's see what else we can find on the list. Data orientated Rust design toolkit. Data orientated. Hello. Right, unit tests on it. Oh my god. Interesting. So, foundational framework. So why does no one else use this? So no, this is too low level. Basically, no. Packs are looked at. You know, it does make me think that I should just go screw cross-platform and just write native apps in Rust. Like, and just write one for each platform that I want to use, because all the ones I found are rubbish. But then I just have to solve every single problem 3 times, and I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to do that. Plus, that would mean I would actually have to have a Linux machine and a Mac machine to actually test the code on, and I don't want either of those 2 things. I mean, I have a Mac, but do I want to give Apple money? No. Do I want to maintain Linux systems? Hell no. I mean, I do already, so I know what the pain is like, right? Do I want to have a desktop system running Linux? Hell no. Hell no. Servers are bad enough. We're basically running out of GUI frameworks to test. Iced is on the list, right? Do I want to even try it in Iced? I'm going to sleep on it. What's either going to happen at the end of this, at this point, after 5 weeks or so of trying to just do a tab desktop example in a bunch of different frameworks and getting nowhere fast, is that I'm either going to try Ice tomorrow as one last ditch effort, or I'm just going to go no and write some other software instead that doesn't have a GUI, because they're just not there yet, in my opinion. They're just not there yet. I mean, I can say that for a fact without even trying Iced, because it doesn't have localization support built in. Like, you need localization systems to build user interfaces, people. The whole world doesn't speak one language. The world is filled with many, many languages. Like, let's go Wikipedia language list. Lists of languages. Right? There's even an international standard, because there are so many of these different languages that people speak in the world, and people want their user interfaces in their native languages. Right? That's what people want. You need a GUI framework that your mum can use no matter where your mum lives and what language she speaks. Regardless of whether you're creating crazy software like I am for pick and place machines, which my mum is not going to use, but some people are, and they don't live in the same country that I do. I need languages. I need language support. The GUIs. Look, just, internationalization support. No, no, no. Yes, but there's other problems. Yes, but there's other problems. No. Yes, but, you know, there's other problems. And it's... Right. So yeah, so this is what's going to happen. I'm either going to try ICE tomorrow and know that there's no internationalization support, and I do believe it was on their roadmap, but the way that they've implemented it, the Visio guy didn't like it, if my memory serves me correctly. Or I'm going to just give up and not write Rust GUI apps, because no. Okay, so just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See ya.